You would go to UBS and not JPMorgan.
I didn't say that. That's their argument.
That's why I'm richer than you.
I think all that's been a waste of time, and why you guys waste any breath on it is totally beyond me.
I feel like you'd like to see it be a woman.
I would never say that.
Is it fair to say that JPMorgan could have losses of $500 billion or $1 trillion?
Not unless this Earth is hit by a moon.
JamieDimon grew up with two influential men in his life being New York stockbrokers, his grandfather and his father. He displayed maturity for his age growing up, simultaneously exemplifying an entrepreneurial spirit, starting his first business at the age of 6, attempting to sell greeting cards. Jamie, despite coming from a comfortable family background, had a strong desire for financial success from a young age. When he was 9 years old, he told his father that he planned to become a wealthy individual, remaining focused on his goal regardless of whether his parents believed in him. JamieDimon and his twin brother attended private high school together, and growing up, Jamie remained among the top students in his class, displaying multiple examples of not being afraid to challenge authority. Though many believe that this trait would eventually go away, however, to much surprise, it never did. Ambitious JamieDimon knew that if he wanted to fulfill his dreams of becoming a successful man, he had to attend one of the top schools in the country. So he applied to Brown. But surprisingly, Brown declined him. So Dimon, now scrambling to figure out what to do next, attended his second choice of school, Tufts University. Dimon was not the biggest fan of Tufts University, thinking that not enough people took it seriously. He ended up graduating summa cum laude, now finally having a real shot at Harvard. He was accepted, but thinking over his choice, decided that gaining work experience would be a wise decision. After applying to 15 companies, including McKinsey, the Boston Consulting Group, he received one single job offer from Management Advisory and Consulting, a Boston-based firm founded by Harvard Business School professors. He spent the following 2 years there, and finally attending the business school in 1980. He graduated Harvard Business School in 1982, being named a Baker Scholar, a distinction bestowed to only the top 5% of each graduating class. Now, JamieDimon had packed his bags and headed for New York City, starting a life he could never have even imagined. Fresh from Harvard Business School in the spring of 1982, he had 3 job offers from investment banks Goldman Sachs, Lehman Brothers, and Morgan Stanley. Feeling like he was on the right path to his childhood goals, he decided to call his parents' family friend Sandy Whale first to discuss the decision. Sandy at the time was the chairman of the executive committee of American Express. After calling Whale, he ended up inviting JamieDimon to his office for a chat. He offered JamieDimon a chance to be his assistant instead of taking the job offers, granting him the opportunity to learn the business from the inside out.
But when I got to Harvard Business School, I actually worked at Goldman Sachs the summer of '81, and I was headed back to Goldman, Morgan, and Lehman. I was probably going to decide Goldman, and at the last minute, Sandy Weil offered me this job to be his assistant. He had just sold Shearson, which is a brokerage firm with a couple thousand brokers, to American Express. And it looked like it was just too good to see a large corporation from the inside, how it goes. My goal in life was to, be part of an organization. It wasn't necessary to be an investment banker or a trader or something like that. So I took the crapshoot. I figured, worst comes to worst, I can go back to Wall Street. So I didn't feel like I was, going to lose anything but time.
Dimon distinguished himself from his classmates by choosing Whale over his job offers. The investment banking industry had not yet reached its mid-1980s peak. However, the 1980s bull market had already begun, leaving investment bankers feeling confident and powerful. Whale's offer had Dimon passing up a job at Goldman Sachs, an ideal for many Harvard graduates. Instead, this decision began one of the most successful mentor-mentee relationships in the history of American business.
So you went to Harvard Business School, and afterwards you had offers from Goldman Sachs and many other well-known firms, but you decided to go work for one person, Sandy Weil. Why did you do that as opposed to going to a very prestigious investment bank?
I wanted to, if you ask me, I was going to go to Goldman. And when I called up Goldman and Lehman and said to them, I've decided to take this job as the assistant to Sandy Weil, who just sold Shears and Hamill to American Express, they said, that's a really neat job. Good for you. When I called Morgan Stanley, Bob Greenhill said to me, you mean to tell me that you're going to take a job there as opposed to Morgan Stanley? And I was like, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm telling you. Because Sandy I got to know him a little bit. My dad was a broker at Shears and Hamill. I'd had a summer job there. He liked the fact I went to Harvard Business School, and his pitch was this: I'm not going to pay you the same. He'd try to hire me as an investment banker at Shearson. It was Shearson Hayden Stone at the time. I basically politely told him no, because you just learn so much more and you get paid more at some place like Goldman Sachs. But he said, come join me here. I don't know what it's going to be, but at least you'll see what a big company works like. What I loved about, first of all, he was very down to earth. I mean, there are flaws in the man, but he's very down to earth. And I really wanted to help build something.
Although, unfortunately, Sandy Weil would come to be fired from American Express, taking down Jamie Dimon with him. Dimon, now needing to make a critical decision, decided to stick with Weil, not knowing if this is the right decision. Regardless, the two men needed to get to work together to pick themselves back onto their feet. Being out of work for a year and a half, Dimon knew that his dream of building a successful life was slipping out of his hands. Although, an opportunity came along, and the men knew that they needed to grasp it. An unglamorous operation called Commercial Credit, a Baltimore-based lender to a huge but overlooked sector of the population, was providing an opportunity for Sandy Weil and his protege, Jamie Dimon.
After you were there for a while, he got fired.
Yep.
And you decided to go with him rather than stay there, the organization.
Yep.
Did you ever think you were going to build up a organization as big as you ultimately built up?
No.
And
No, well, first of all, Sandy originally thought he was going to be offered Bank of America or Merrill Lynch, or we did
try to buy Bank of America?
We tried to do something with Bank of America, and
right,
kind of like tilting at windmills. And
on September 12, 1986, 4 years after Dimon graduated Harvard Business School, Control Data announced that Sandy Weil was being appointed as chairman and CEO of Commercial Credit, and that the company had hoped to sell a majority of the unit to investors as soon as possible. Jamie Dimon, most likely thankful for sticking with Weil, found himself in an opportunity to once again gain the most prestigious knowledge by working under Sandy. The men began preparing the company for an IPO and simultaneously hired influential Wall Street figures. The Sandy Weil era at Commercial Credit had now begun, with Jamie Dimon right behind him. Collaborating with a group of seasoned executives, Dimon quickly acquired the moniker The Kid. However, he stood out as an extraordinary individual, demonstrating a remarkable ability to grasp the complexities of financial accounting and tax matters with a sponge-like absorption. He was equally proficient in evaluating the balance between risk and returns across the company's diverse ventures. Building up the company together, Sandy and Jamie had a unique relationship, regularly getting heated with each other, betting on who's right, and overall being in a situation where two very smart men are butting head to head. Over time, the Commercial Credit crew worked harder over the next decade than most of its members ever had. At just the age of 30, Dimon assumed the role of Chief Financial Officer, contributing significantly to the company's transformation. Dimon was seen as a remarkable worker, being very mentally tough on the people around him and on a good track for future success. Working with his mentor, Dimon was working towards eventually taking over Sandy Weil's position. By the 1990s, Dimon's achievements continued to multiply. With many successful mergers, in the March of 1990, Weil made him an executive vice president, where Commercial Credit acquired Primica Corporation in 1987. Over time, Jamie Dimon grew personally closer to Sandy Weil than he'd ever had before. Weil and Dimon weren't all business, as they were also capable of pulling off the occasional prank on each other. In 1990, while the economy shrank by 1.5%, Permica stock continued to reach new heights, hitting an all-time high of $37. And by September 1991, Whale decided to officially recognize what much of Wall Street had finally come to appreciate. Whale named Dimon, just 35 years old, president of the company, relinquishing the title to his protege. Dimon pulled his weight within the company, working very hard and bringing much success. However, by the mid-90s, Dimon and Whale's relationship began to crack. The two men began disagreeing on business affairs, altering their relationship. To add salt to the wound, JamieDimon declined to grant Sandy Whale's daughter the position she insisted on, as he didn't perceive her suitable for it, leading to her departure from the firm. The previously very close mentor and mentee relationship began to crack. After 15 years of building up the company together, the mother of all deals was about to play out. Citicorp was standing right at the foot of the door. This was a deal that Jamie and Sandy had discussed for the past decade, included with the anticipation of Dimon leading the company. The team, Sandy Whale and JamieDimon, putting their current bickering aside, began working towards a merger with a new name, Citigroup. Dimon knew that soon, all his hard work would finally be paid off, since he would finally achieve what he had long been working towards: ultimate success. Though what Jamie wasn't aware of was that Sandy was announcing behind his back that no one should anticipate the succession of JamieDimon, and the ultimate fracture in the mentor-mentee relationship occurred. Dimon, working towards this huge merger, expected Whale to finally assure him that the job of leading Citigroup would soon be his. But Whale was not yet ready to think past his own career. He was living in the present, and he was sick to death of Dimon thinking that they were equals. Dimon had been his junior partner, and Sandy wanted to keep it that way. JamieDimon could not believe it. After staying loyal by Sandy's side for the past 2 decades, the very merger he and Whale had planned out had been grabbed out of his hands. On Saturday, April 4th, 1998, the two companies' boards approved the merger. After much insult to the wound, Dimon was still named president of the combined company, with only the CFO reporting to him, while the rest reported to the CEOs, Sandy Whale and John S. Reed. Furthermore, Jamie wasn't even granted a spot on the board. While he and Whale had previously demonstrated the ability in navigating their tumultuous relationship towards beneficial outcomes for the company, Whale had recently succumbed to the notorious CEO ailment, rendering him unable to hear anything except what aligned with his desires. Mon, working under him, quickly adapted this shift, but Dimon, who had always been headstrong, with no fear to question authority, struggled to adapt to this. JamieDimon, in disbelief of what Whale did to him, continued to provide excellent work for the company, although the long relationship between the two men had been altered forever. This treatment resulted in erratic behavior from JamieDimon, realizing that the very thing he had been promised long ago was just a dangling carrot in front of his face to make him run faster. What Jamie didn't expect was that Sandy Whale was not going to work this rift out. JamieDimon and Sandy Whale's 15-year partnership collapsed during their peak success. After repeatedly proving himself to be a man with judgment and intellect beyond his years, Dimon was fired by his longtime friend. Following the merger, Whale openly tested his protege, as if all their years of working closely together had meant nothing to him.
They got you in there and they said you're fired. Were you shocked? And
Look, I had 100 people at my apartment, recruiting. Okay, and they said, "Can you come?" We were meeting that Sunday at 4, and they said, "Can you come up at 1?" I said, "No, I have this brunch for all these kids," and they said, "You got to come. It's very important." So I walked in the room. There's 2 of them and me, and I sat down. And a lot of the people at the company said, "It doesn't work. You got to change it." So we knew there might be change coming because it just simply didn't work. And they said to me, "Well, we've made some decisions. We want to share them with you." I said, "Yes." And they said, "Well, we're going to have this person run the Global Corporate Investment Bank. So that's kind of my job, but I was shocked who it was. They said, we're gonna have this person do this, and we want you to resign. To which I said, okay.
After almost 2 decades of partnership, Sandy refused to allow Jamie to live up to his full potential and fired him instead.
And, and Sandy and I hadn't been getting along for 5 years, so that wasn't immediate. Of course, I should have known. I mean, I missed a very stupid thing that I thought eventually it would work out, we'd be okay. I was obviously the logical person to run City, though, it hadn't been decided, but, so I got home and I told my kids, I walk in and my daughters, I say, girls, I have 3 daughters and I think they're like 12, 10, and 8. I said, girls, I have to tell you something. I resigned, but I really got fired. And the littlest one says, oh, Daddy, do we have to sleep on the streets? I said, no, sweetheart, we're completely fine. The middle one was always obsessed with college. She said, can I still go to college? I said, absolutely. And I knew I'd made a major breakthrough. And the oldest one said, Daddy, can I have your cell phone? You won't be needed anymore.
I read a quote, I don't know if it's true, that you said, the day you left City to a coworker, I will never work for another person again. Is that true?
I don't think that's true. I'd probably say I'll never work for Sandy Weil again.
After pulling off one of the largest mergers in history with Weil, Dimon set a dubious record of his own. His was quite possibly the shortest tenure on record of a president at a Fortune 500 company. He'd held his title for less than a month, and he was only 42 years old. Dimon spent the next 16 months traveling, spending time with his family, reading, and completing a list of things he would wish to experience, something his previous schedule of working 75 hours a week would not allow. Though that's not to be mistaken with JamieDimon not receiving the opportunity to work again. He, at the time, was one of the most celebrated executives. Dimon simply did not want to jump into the next gig without weighing out all his options. After almost a year later, and with much consideration, Bank One was the company JamieDimon decided to park at next.
And so I decided I should probably find some in financial services.
The Bank One deal came along, and you moved to Chicago, and people there didn't think you were going to stay there very long. They kept thinking you were moving back to New York.
Oh, the first they didn't think I really moved. I said, well, my kids go to school here. Are you really going to move? My kids go to school here. There's a little cartoon. I used to always make a joke in Chicago that you all, when I die, and they send my ashes back to New York, you're going to say, we told you.
Dimon wanted to remain in the finance industry. Bank One ultimately came up with a 5-year deal with the board that included a $1 million base salary and a bonus $2.5 million in the first year, up to $4 million the year thereafter. He won the right to cut the size of the board, as well as to install himself as chairman in addition to CEO. And Dimon, at long last, was finally his own boss. The first 6 months at Bank One were not easy. Dimon was surprised by the severity of the company's problems and the proposed solutions. Considering the dot-com crash as well as the 9/11 attacks, Jamie's first few years as CEO at Bank One were not simple. However, he managed to turn the bank upside down. In 2003, a seed was beginning to be planted, something Jamie had not been expecting but had long been working towards. JamieDimon began having informal meetings with William B. Harrison Jr., the CEO of JPMorganChase, discussing potential what-ifs of the future of their companies. A merger was not off the discussion table. The industry was currently in the grip of merger mania, and Harrison knew that if he didn't snap up Bank One, someone else surely would. It wasn't just the company that was attractive to him. It was JamieDimon himself. Harrison desperately wanted Jamie as his successor, something Sandy Weil was never planning to provide. On June 1st, 2004, Bank One Corporation, founded in 1968, merged with JPMorganChase, with Jamie becoming COO. But after a year of transition, on December 31st, 2005, JamieDimon was named CEO of JPMorganChase, and a year later adding chairman and president to the title. JamieDimon was now the very leader of one of the biggest banks in America, and it is impossible to deny that Jamie Dimon ultimately achieved every aspiration he had set out to fulfill in the end. Jamie led the bank through the 2008 crisis, and under Dimon's leadership with the acquisition during his tenure, JPMorganChase had become the leading U.S. bank in domestic assets under management, market capitalization value, and publicly traded stock value. He remains CEO and chairman of the board at JPMorganChase to this present day, with a reported net worth of $2 billion US. Jamie Dimon spent the first half of his career as a character in the story of Sandy Whale. However, by 2009, it was clear that Dimon's story had surpassed Whale's.